Hi everyone, welcome back to Kraft Jewels. In this recording, we'll learn about few API hacks in webMethods. Especially, I'll show you a few hacks with respect to retrieving request headers, and when you're actually responding back, how do you manage your response, the format, as well as how can you easily manipulate the response, and also few hints for debugging the APIs. Especially this might be slightly difficult when you're having something the metadata that is coming from your headers, and few best practices. Okay, all right, let's get started. Okay, so to explain this, right, so what I have taken is I've taken this package, Kraft Jewels package, which contains an API called organization, and I have two resources, employees and department, within an organization. Very simple use case. Let's get started. Okay, so and I would say if you're actually working and if you're fairly new to web methods, this is what the structure I would highly recommend. You always better to kind of a version your implementation also, and this has the versioning v1 currently, and in the services folder you have public and private folders. Okay, so let's say I have this current implementation with the API org, which represents the organization. Okay, and this is actually referring to a REST resource employees. What a lot of people doesn't know is they keep actually creating only one resource, and they keep creating the Swagger or OpenAPI spec only for only one resource. But what you can also do is within the same API specification, you can add more REST resources. You can just simply click here and choose your resource that you would like to add and click on OK. That's it. So you can do this, and a lot of people doesn't know about this. Okay, just wanted to highlight this part. And now I have these two resources. Let's say people just access employees. So let's say I have this already. This is my server and RAD. This is my API specification name, and I will just fire a request. This is working fine. And if you see this, right, it is getting you employees. And I'll go back and show you the structure of the service. This is referring to the resource employees, and this employees is referring to a service with _1. I have intentionally named it. Ideally, you should not be doing it. I just wanted to take a simple use case. And if you see this one, right, this is employees. While this looks okay, right, according to the RESTful practices, you should avoid actually echoing back the root element name. You see employees, and this is something very important if you are aligning to the RESTful standards. And a lot of people doesn't know how to actually do this. So I'll just simply show you how you can easily do it in web methods. I will come back here and say change this map service to employees, from _1 to employees. Okay, click on OK and say save. Okay, now you fire the request. That's it. Boom. You see this, right? The root element is vanished. And if I change it back to _1 again, it'll come back. Okay. So how do I do this? Okay, because like I mentioned, these are few hacks which others don't know, right? So if you go back to this employee service, if you want to kind of eliminate the root element name, you might want to actually call it as $root array. Okay, if you see this one, this is especially applicable for the entities which are basically kind of a list type of entities. Employees is an array. If you want to kind of eliminate this root element name, you might want to echo it as $root array. Okay, this is a handy one if you want to align to the RESTful principles, a hidden feature. Okay, and another important thing, right? For example, you have an API, and I will just simply run this get employees. And if I come back here, I would say SX custom identifier, okay? And I will call it as my name, Srikanth. and let's say I'm just sending a custom identifier. If you need to access this in your flow service, how do you do it? Typically, you'll come back here and you would uh, use the get a transport info service, okay, which will basically give you all the transport headers, okay, all the request headers. This is an additional step that you need to kind of incorporate. So my recommendation, right? So what I would do is there is again a hidden feature in webMethods. So you can ideally you should never ever implement any business logic in the top level service. Okay. So this is my top level service, get employees. What I would do is I would create a similar service in my private folder. I would just drag and drop the private folder. Now, same thing, maybe without this, I'll simply run this service. Okay, currently this is echoing these two things. Two employees, Tony Stack and Steve Rogers, are working here. And I will just drag and drop my private service. And now I will just run this. By simply running this, what you can actually see here is this private service is already giving you all the headers. So let's see how I actually implemented this private service. So in webMethods, there is a hack. So you can use HTTP request as, especially with this name $HTTP request. By simply keeping this, whenever you run this flow service from anywhere, the request URL, the method, and all the headers would be kind of retrieved. So let me quickly add a trace pipeline just to show you guys. So I just added a trace pipeline, and this is my server log, as you can see. And I will come back here. This I can close this, and I will show you the get employees service, which is invoking the private service. And if I run this again, it is going to give you this one. You can see, right? It is going to give you the request HTTP $HTTP request URL, method, and everything. Okay, so this is something which I manually run from the designer. If I just fire the same thing from Postman here, and you would see you get the same thing. And one important thing is you can see X custom identifier is Srikanth. It is echoing back. You can easily retrieve these headers by simply adding this to your child service. I would not recommend to add this in the parent service because this would actually disturb the API specification. That's the main reason. It's best practice, a recommended practice, where you can actually have the business logic implemented in your child service. Okay. Now there is another thing, right? You can see something I added here, $HTTP response. What this $HTTP response does is it also gives you hooks where you can actually manipulate the response. So let me come back here. Okay, so I will just add a map step. In this map step, I will just say response code is 200. Okay, and response string is just to benefit, I will maximize. I'll just put the response string and also the headers. We need to specify the content type. Application/JSON. Okay, that's it. You can see I kept $HTTP response. Now by simply firing this, now you see simply it changed. The response changed. The only difference we made is kept this $HTTP response as a child service output, okay, and the parent service still remains as is. It is just invoking. So what remember this does is it actually checks for this $HTTP response variable uh, in the pipeline. If it is available, it actually overrides whatever we are setting. Okay. So and let me also set a few more headers. Okay. So content type application JSON, and again X custom response. Okay, and we fire this request, and you can see the headers res3, and you can see X custom response. Thanks for watching. Okay, so and especially this trace pipeline is something which will be very handy when you're debugging the APIs, and because the real time when you're invoking it from a web application or somewhere else, you might want to see what are the headers that are being basically pushed from those systems. So it will be very handy. And few more hacks. What developers usually does is they will come back here and put a save and restore. I would not really recommend because when you keep a save pipeline here and a restore pipeline here, and when you're again debugging, your HTTP request headers are subjected to change. Okay, and if you are using again get transport info, they're subjected to change. So those are the cases where you might want to keep a save pipeline to file, and especially for the debugging purpose, again here restore pipeline from a file. So I'll just copy the same file name. Ideally it should be .xml. Now I'll just disable this step. Okay, now I will fire this. So in this step I did capture the pipeline. Now I will just disable this, enable this, just debug. Here if you say restore, this is where all your inputs including the request headers can be easily restored, and from there on you can actually move forward for your debugging. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.